Hello, everyone. It is Monday morning, and it's about 2 weeks after the launch of the app, and the response has been pretty awesome from you guys. Gotten over 800 signups on the app, tons of positive emails, and yeah, I just feel like it's going well. So now, some people have been saying that they want calorie controls, and I totally agree. That's pretty necessary for different size human beings. So I'm going to focus on that for the week, and then after that, I'm going to just try and blow this thing up. So if you have any suggestions for who might be helpful for promoting this app to the public, please send them my way. I'm going to reach out to YouTubers, various blogs, that sort of thing. So if you have any ideas, do let me know. So the simplest approach to getting the calorie control working would be to just continue matching recipes together in the way I already am, and then checking whether they happen to add up to the right calorie range. And then if they don't, just do it again until you get one that works. But it's probably going to cause a lot of failed generations because it's not constructing it in an intelligent way. It's just kind of mashing crap haphazardly together. But let's see how it works before I go too far down a rabbit hole. A little bit after 6 now, and I've got the basic calorie control in there. I've added this slider that lets you set a range, and then it will try to generate a meal plan that every day fits within that calorie range. But the problem is, as predicted, this limits it way too much. It causes failures way too often because it's just generating the meal plans without regard for calories, and then at the end confirming that it works. So it's just a brute force approach, and it way too frequently fails to the point that it's very annoying for the user. So I need to optimize this in some way. A beautiful Tuesday morning, and I'm still mulling over exactly how I'm going to go about getting the calorie working. I've got a couple different approaches here that I'm trying to figure out what's the best way. So it's about 4 p.m. now, and I've just gotten the basic implementation of the calorie control working, and it seems to work pretty well for sort of medium-sized calorie ranges. Like here I've got a 400 calorie range, seems good. It seems to run into issues when you run it too tight, like only 100 difference, or when you put it either too low or too high. But that's just dependent on the set of recipes that are in the system right now, and it may be easier or harder to generate certain calorie ranges just based on how many exist that are like would add up to that range. So I think I need to implement some sort of system that will tell me what options the users put in and whether or not they had a successful generation, so I can do some sort of analysis of what sort of recipes I need to be adding, what sort of options are causing failures most often, and that will help me just make it a more smooth experience for the user. So I'm starting to think about how I would implement that now. Almost 9 p.m. on Wednesday, and I've got this basic benchmarking utility in place that basically what it does is allows me to pass a set of options that the recipe set will use to generate, and then it will calculate the success rate and failure rate for a bunch of generations of that recipe set. So that way I can just use this to tell if the algorithm is working well for a certain set of options. So now I've got a basic benchmarking system in place, and I'm getting back to trying to make the calorie range work properly. And I realized one thing that was throwing it off was I didn't account for snacks, which here they're called add-ons. But I didn't account for those in the calorie total, so it would generate a set of 3 recipes that was within the calorie range, and then a lot of the time it would add on 2 snacks, which would then push it over and cause a failed generation. So I need to make the add-on choosing account for the calorie range, and then hopefully it'll work better. So I'm working on that now. So before I needed to take calories into account, I was using this method here to figure out how much of an add-on I need to add to perfectly satisfy a category of the daily dozen. So you'd have the recipe set generated with 3 recipes, and then there would still be a deficiency, like you need some whole grains or whatever. You'd run this method to figure out how much whole grains do I need to add to satisfy the whole grains in the daily dozen, and that's how I did it before. But now, since we need to take into account calories, I had to write this other method where I can figure out how much of an add-on I need to fill up a certain amount of calories. So basically, when I'm choosing an add-on, it's now going to try to figure out if it can fully satisfy a category. If not, it's gonna try to satisfy up to the amount of calories that are left. Almost 7 o'clock now, and I've been working on this UI for creating these benchmarks that I can then run periodically and see, or experiment with different values and see how I can make the algorithm work better, because basically I'm just putting numbers in there, not in very scientific ways, kind of mashing crap together, so I'm not sure what values will work best. So this will give me some insight into that. So I can just put in a bunch of different things, see what works for different calorie ranges, how many trials it should do, and then it'll tell me the success rate, the failure rate, and all that good stuff. So hopefully it should let me figure out what sorts of changes I need to be making. So getting it to generate with the calorie range and in the future even more options is proving far more difficult than anticipated. And so I've gone back to the drawing board a bit, and one thing I keep coming back to is this thought that if I just pre-calculate all combinations of recipes, I can more easily generate meal plans. I'm just looking for a combination that fits the criteria instead of trying to build a combination that fits the criteria. And so I've done the math here. This is how many combinations there would be at certain numbers of recipes. So at 1,000 recipes, there are 166 million combinations of 3, which is a day of a meal plan. So I've done some research, and I think that is doable with the database. I've never done this sort of large scale data set. But yeah, as long as I stay below about 1,000 recipes in the system, I think this should work. So I'm going to try it and see if that makes things easier. Hey guys, it's Sunday night, and I'm about to get into another week of indie web development, and I've just queued up all these combinations of recipes. Monday morning now, and my background jobs are not done. I still have 378,000 to go, but I've stopped it for now because I was noticing it was basically blocking meal plan generation for some reason. So some piece of the hosting infrastructure is inadequate for running all these jobs and allowing users to, generate meal plans within the timeout, which is 60 seconds by default. Alright guys, so I've been working on making the server infrastructure work a lot better for handling these combo calculations, which is going to be like the most intensive thing the app ever does, is needing to recalculate all these combinations. And so what I've done is each of these here represents a server that has a background job process running. And so you can see right now I got 4 of them and they're running at 25 threads each. So that means I have basically 100 concurrent processes happening. So it's going through this list of enqueued thing, which each of those is creating a combination. It's performing 100 at a time, and that's spread out over 4 servers. And you can see that each of these servers is hanging out at like 60 to 80% CPU utilization, so it's using most of the server to calculate all this crap, which is good. And then I set up a rule that will auto scale the servers based on CPU utilization. So if I start running a bunch of jobs and the CPU utilization goes above 50, it's going to spawn another server until you get 4 of them. So basically when jobs are happening, it's going to go to 100 jobs at a time, and that'll work cool. And I've upgraded my database to the other one was way too small and the CPU couldn't handle it. Now you can see this one right now, it's got 106 connections. 100 of those are my background jobs, and the CPU is at 77%, so it's using most of the database, which is good. So I think I've got my infrastructure paired together with all the different pieces much better than I did previously, at least. So redoing the generation logic using the combinations, and it's a lot simpler now. Basically, you're just going to choose the add-ons first, and then choose a recipe combination that works. And it's just going to build a big SQL query that makes it fit all the parameters. So it's got to have the right recipes, the right percent satisfied, it's got to have breakfast, got to be within the time range, got to be within the calorie range, and then picks a random one that fits all those, and that is pretty much it. 6 p.m. Tuesday now, and I've got it working with the calorie picker. It seems to work for small ranges as well as large ones at either end of the spectrum, so it's working really well. Very happy with it. One thing I'm going to do next is choose the snacks in a better way. Right now it just randomly chooses them before choosing the recipes, and so it's not necessarily boosting the daily dozen unless it just happens to by chance be the right type of snack. So I need to do some analysis of the recipes and pick the snacks accordingly to boost this number even higher. So that'll be my next task. Alright guys, so I spent most of the day here trying to figure out how I can allocate snacks to days of a meal plan when there's a really narrow calorie range. And I couldn't really figure out something that worked. I was getting a lot of stupid stuff like it telling you to eat a tenth of a banana or a half of an apple. Things that are impractical. So the good news is I don't need snacks to generate a high quality meal plan in a narrow calorie range. So I'm just going to dump snacks for now and come back to that in a later update and hopefully be able to give you control a little bit, like how many snacks you want on the meal plan. But for now, getting rid of the snacks. So Wednesday night now, and I've just finished writing the beginnings of a system for analyzing the options and how well they're going to work. So you can see here I have all the calorie ranges, and I've got the amount of combinations that fall into that range. So as you can see, toward the higher end of the spectrum of calories, there's not as many combinations, and that's causing the daily cook plan specifically to fail to generate pretty often at those ranges. So that tells me I need more high calorie recipes to smooth out the experience for people trying to eat this many calories. So yeah, that's some good intel, and now I can do that. And I can begin adding other options and seeing how many combinations fit those going forward. So, alright, that is it for this update, guys. It's live now. You can go set your calorie ranges And I'd like to take a moment to personally thank my patrons. You guys are what make this possible. And if you haven't yet, please do consider becoming a patron. My mission is to apply as many lessons of nutrition science to a meal plan generation algorithm so that I can help people live healthier lives. And I do need more support if I'm going to keep doing this sustainably. I have so many more ideas, so many more scientific principles I can apply to this. I just need your support. Thank you.